And welcome everyone to Circle the Debate Podcast Top 5 Picks of the Week. And here's the host of Devious, what I've been seeing. And of course, I'm joined with my brothers from another mothers, my hermanos, mi familia, of course, the four fellow horsemen. And I have Mr. 69 himself, and that is with the 69 hats that he always wears and 69 carbonation sodas that he drinks. And by God, he's Mr. 69. Mr. Matt Don Calles Steamboat.
Too sweet.
Whoop, whoop. That's right. And Calles 69. There you go. 69. And of course, I have the man who lives 1,977,000 miles from Winnipeg, Minnesota, Canada, because he is not only just the most valuable podcaster, he's also the most violent podcaster because he is the undefeated, the undisputed, the unmatched, the unrivaled, and the uncensored. And that is Money by God, Mike Lopez.
You get 100. You get 100. Everybody gets 100. Yes. Or should I say 5? Here we go.
You get a top 5. You get a top 5. You get a top 5. And today's top 5 you're going to get, ladies and gentlemen, is right behind me. Top 5 underrated feuds. That's right. So we are talking about not just the feuds that everybody is known about, like the Austin and Rock, Mick Foley and The Rock Triple H, Taker and Kane. We're not talking about just that or Cena, no. We're talking about underrated feuds that were never brought upon of, but they delivered great matches on television and great storylines with it, along with it too, that it could have developed probably more, and it could have been to that level of those other feuds that I mentioned. So let's go to the wheel, see who goes first to give their top 5 underrated feuds. Here we go. That's right.
Go.
Oh, shit. It had to be me. All right.
Ready to rock and roll.
Ready to rock and roll. Let me just remove my name.
Oh,
man.
Rock and roll.
I'm in control. Trish. Woo, this is going to be a tough one. But I'm going to go for it. My number 5. I feel that this was underrated. I wish it could have delivered more because the fact that this was a dream match that we all wanted to see, but I wish they could have taken it to a next level consciousness. I wish it could have. And I would say that would be Billy Kidman and X-Pac when the first ever invasion ever happened. When the invasion happened first, that was the dream match. You had your top cruiserweight champion versus one of the top light heavyweight champions. And a legend, obviously, as Sean Waltman, him being the kid, him being the idol body of Kidman, I'm pretty sure. Him doing, sunset flips, maneuvers, spinning heel kicks. I mean, this is the match that we all wanted to see. If we were, since we both loved, WCW and WWE, WWF, but I was more WWF at the time. But why not see this match? I think this match could have been more epic than what the first time they met, the first 2 times. I wish they could have delivered more. Maybe they could have really elevated the titles, like the light heavyweight and cruiserweight, to its peak with them 2 individuals fighting for like an undisputed, cruiserweight, light heavyweight champion. I wish they could have done better with that story between them. But it was underrated, the fact that the first 2 matches they met were not bad at all. They were great matches, actually, especially, using each other's moves, and except for the shooting star press. X-Pac wasn't going to do that. But, seeing Kidman using the X Factor, it just, the match itself delivered. And I think a lot of us fans were happy to see this dream match to happen. But it happened in a WWF ring. So I will definitely, that's my number 5 pick. My number 4 pick. And this is good. Okay, my number 4 will definitely be and I'm gonna bring back Kidman again, and I'll bring Kidman. Billy Kidman versus Paul London. I think that feud would have been spectacular to see because it was great on SmackDown, and then Kidman, this is when Kidman was a heel, he's short hair. He was, doing the Ric Flair role, but the short version one, and then with the run, and then with the whole, knocking out Chavo Guerrero. I think that storyline itself would have been epic, more like extremely epic, with Paul London being the underrated dog and at the time and helping him to elevate himself, and which Paul Heyman did a great job, booking these two individuals on SmackDown, making the cruiserweight division to be unnoticed, and they did deliver great matches, both of them, and great storytelling in the ring for these two individuals and their feud. I kind of wish they could have used Kendrick more involved in this. Have Kendrick get his ass by Kidman, say, "Look, this is what I did to your friend," like what he did to Chavo. Maybe things like that would have been so great. It would have been awesome to see. And seeing London maybe winning the cruiserweight from Kidman, like a SummerSlam or Survivor Series, would have been so epic to see, and it would have built him up to his peak more. I wish they could have gone more further with the storyline. And not only that, this could have been the transition of Kidman moving to the title hunt for Intercontinental or for mid-card title or for the heavyweight title or the WWE championship at the time. That would have been great to see, moving Kidman away from the cruiserweight and now having him involved in the title picture where everywhere else was at the time, because he wasn't like that 205 pounds anyways. He was already more than that. And you could tell his physique changed throughout the years when he came in at first, and then later on, he built muscle. So that's what Vince likes that type of shit. Anyways, one muscle, damn it, strong. So I wish they could have gone more further with it. Number 3, I think this would have been a great, even though a great singles, but even though it was a triple threat. And that was when it was Rob Van Dam, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I think, was it Kurt Angle, Mike? Or who? It was Kurt Angle, right? Kurt Angle. The time when RVD was really undecided who he wanted to frog splash, either Angle or Austin. And Vince clearly lost his mind, because when you signed Rob Van Dam, that was your moneymaker there. That was like, yes, we got the man that we wanted, that everybody died for, to get at the time. He could have gone to New Japan if he wanted to at that time, or All Japan, but he decided to stay in WWF. To sign with him. And so, was RVD added to the picture of the title with Austin? He was that middleman. Is like, I don't know where to go. Should I be with the Alliance or should I be with WWF? Shit like that. It would, and then RVD, maybe not choosing none of them would have been great. And I think Rob Van Dam winning the title would have been awesome, in my opinion. I know it's early, but it would have been awesome if he would have won that match. And then go on, having Austin and Angle hating each other while he's, defending the title somewhere else, with different people. But I think I would have loved to see RVD with Austin storyline. I think taking Angle out of the equation, Austin and RVD would have been great, because then you're pretty much questioning your leader, your savior. And I think that they could have done more with that. But it was a great little small mini feud for RVD. And if you could tell, if you go back and look at that triple threat match, it was a great match too. Like all three of them, man. That's 3 different styles of professional wrestling. You have a brawler, you have a grappler, and you have a high flyer, all mixed into one. And hey, that was not a bad match at all. All right, so my number 2. This is gonna be a toughy one here. All right, hold on, I'm trying to write it down here. Okay. All right, I think I'm gonna have to go with this one for sure. I would have to say Eddie Guerrero and Chavo Guerrero.
That's interesting.
Why? Because I did like that run, with Eddie being the WWF, WWE champion.
Yeah.
And then that the family, battle, the Guerreros turning, Chavo and Senior and Junior turning on Eddie. I wish they could have built it more. I wish they could have elevated more that storyline. I like the beginning of it, how he never touched him. He didn't want to hit him. Like, no, you're my blood. I don't want to hurt him. But until he finally snapped, and then at the Royal Rumble, I wish the match could have been a little bit more better and more time to it. And I feel like that should have been a trifecta, in my opinion, to end the battle of the Guerrero. To see, hey, this is, who's the actual Guerrero? Who's the main warrior? And which was Eddie. And I wish, honestly, that would have helped Chavo's career too. I think, him being the cruiserweight, and then at the time being the cruiserweight champion, and now we were able to take him more serious, because back then he was more like a joke. I mean, no disrespect, Chavo, but if you go back and look at your feuds that you had, with Jacqueline, for God's sakes, and losing the belts to to people that is like, man, they're devouring your name and your character. And seeing that with his father turning his back on Uncle Eddie, fantastic way to how to do it. I wish they could have done it more better, but it wasn't narrated, because that's something they could have done and took it to the next level. Honestly, I think they could have done another level, next level conscious with that storyline. And even though the match was not the greatest, but it was great storytelling, I'll tell you that. If you go back and look at that match at the Royal Rumble, look at the storytelling, how it is. It's amazing how they're telling the story in the ring. You have you're fighting my own uncle, and you're throwing him all this. You're garbage. You're an alcoholic. You were an alcoholic. You were doing drugs. F5, I should be a true warrior champion, a Guerrero champion. So, yeah, I think they dropped the ball on that one, in my opinion. I think they could have. That was just for sure underrated feud. That could have been fantastic. And of course, my number one is one right behind me. Of course, this match itself was awesome. Eddie Guerrero versus Edge, their feud, man. If we could go back to even to this, to SmackDown's ladder match. Jesus Christ, man, that match was one of the most epic matches I ever seen between Eddie and Edge, and this is like them working together to the chemistry they have. Such fucking great work, man. And then Mike mentioned, you said it was Unforgiven, right? You said it, Unforgiven.
Yeah, Unforgiven 2002, which was at Staples Center. I got the privilege to see these two have a great match, and Eddie Guerrero went over that night.
Oh yeah, man. I super enjoyed it. I think it was such a fantastic, just them feuding with each other. And then I like the fact that Paul Heyman, I have to give him credits due. He was a creative head writer at the time. He really knew how to build the stars, and he did it absolutely right. That's why SmackDown was the number one announcer for Lucky. Was the A show more than Raw at the time. But Vince wanted that to be the B show. But whatever talent you threw at Paul, he was, all right, let's start creating you doing this. But yeah, and he did a great job putting these two guys together and delivered epic matches that have never been spoken really much about, which is why it's my number one underrated, because that match, the one he said Unforgiven, SmackDown one, all their matches by far has been very epic and very great storytelling in the ring, in and out. So that's for sure. Do I have any honorable mentions? You know what? This has been a difficult list because there's so many. So I'm out of honorable mentions on here in this one. This was hard for me, but yeah, this was even hard for me to do. Like shit. But all right, let's go to the wheel. Let's see who is next.
Who's next?
I hope he doesn't come back.
Sponsored by
Best Buy. El señor Calles. Calle 69.
Who's ready to ride with me?
Oh.
Ooh.
Oh.
Ride with me. So for me, this was second nature. The something nature. I don't know. There's no word. I can't think of a word that rhymes with nature right now. So
Pager.
make sure that this is second nature. So I had a lot of underrated feuds to choose from. And I could do this list like 3 times over. That's how cocky I am with this. I could do this list 100 times, in all honesty. Because the main thing about underrated, it's like, what is it underrated to? But I'm guessing since a good majority of our audience are people who speak English and live in the United States, I know we've have our foreign, our European and Central American listeners, of course. But I gotta say, there's a lot of feuds that haven't been seen very much here on this side of the ocean, whether Atlantic or Pacific. But the traffic is not terrific in LA. So
no, it's not. Hell no.
So I'm gonna give you my top 5, and I've got my honorable mentions. So this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna take you guys for a ride. So my number 5 on the wild ride is Minoru Suzuki versus Kenny Omega in New Japan. It was like a babyface Kenny, and everybody was like, "Oh no, Kenny, don't get hurt." And Minoru Suzuki was having the time of his life. He was like, his tongue was out. He was ready to. Everybody was running for their lives all over Hurricane Hall, and Kenny was just like doing all kinds of jumps and leaps, and Minoru Suzuki was deflecting. It's like that classic, like Iron Man versus Galactus type of psychology, that Superman versus the Incredible Hulk, type of feel, that kind of thing going on. And it was, I think it was Don Callis and Kevin Kelly. I don't know if JR was there, because JR was there very in New Japan quite recently. He could have been calling that match around that time. So it's too cool. I really gotta recommend that match to everybody. Hurricane Hall, Minoru Suzuki versus Kenny Omega. My number 4, in retrospect, I would have put this one even higher, but there's so many good ones. I'd say all of them are so good they could stand on their own. We got a recent comeback. Let's keep in mind, we've talked to guys who are his students, and we're going to see a lot of his students come up in the world of wrestling. He's the great trainer of the young lions, Katsuyori Shabbata versus Hiroki Goto. Now, I got to say, Hiroki Goto is very underrated. I got so much love for him. And if I was, if this was like NXT like 2 years ago and I was in Triple H's shoes, I would have done everything I could to buy Hiroki Goto, to get him over. Because New Japan hasn't put the world championship on him or the heavyweight championship on him at all. He is so cool. He has such a cool look. He's a member of Chaos. He painted himself like he had the Japanese kanji symbols all over him and the white outfit. He's too cool. Hiroki Goto, I wanted him to be champion. And if I was Triple H, I'd put the NXT. I would have bought his contract and put the NXT title on him like ASAP. So Hiroki Goto and Katsuyori Shibata battling for that never open weight title, and it's such a great rivalry. I highly recommend it. A lot of ass kicking there. Number 3, Nick Bockwinkel versus Jerry the King Lawler.
Great choice.
That's very in the AWA. That's very underrated so I gotta say, this is underrated by like both modern and American standards. So it's either not known in the US or not known well by modern fans. So Nick Bockwinkel, he's the talker, he's the intelligent wrestler, rather than the whole musclehead gimmick of gonna beat you up at the Garden. He had the whole. Now let's take this word, for instance. Like, he's almost like a mad scientist in ways, this intelligent debonair Lex Luthor type, heel. So there's so much love for Nick Bockwinkel, and it was such a cool matchup because Jerry the King Lawler was, he had his talking ability, and he's a great all-arounder, a lot of great psychology. It's definitely a match to go back and watch. That's another one to heavily recommend. I got another one. This is from DDT Wrestling. Konosuke Takeshita versus Chris Brooks.
Okay.
Chris Brooks is another guy that I gotta say, he's just really on the cusp of being like the next Kenny Omega, being the next big Gaijin. He's been DDT's top guy, I guess, like a couple of times now, and he's Maki Ito's tag team partner. So sooner or later, Chris Brooks could come to the US, and Chris Brooks is really well known also amongst the British wrestling audience because he's wrestled for their promotions and really well loved amongst them. So he's great, both submission, striking, and flying, and I like how his voice sounds. It sounds like, he sounds like a British doctor. The diagnosis today, like he's got that deeper British voice, and I want to see more of him. I'm gonna lose my mind the second I get to see Chris Brooks in AEW. So my number one underrated feud, Atsushi Onita versus the Sheik in FMW.
Okay.
Very underrated, especially by like it's something even people who are fans of pro wrestling, like they have to dig into the past to find that one, because I mean the fandom of Japanese pro wrestling has only exploded quite recently, what with the New Japan World and the people finding out about Noah and All Japan just gradually, the tape traders and all that. So you really have to start to dig for this. So people are just starting to find out about this match, about, Atsushi Onita's FMW and kind of why he's loved over there, why that was either number 2 or number 3 or number 4, the precursor to ECW, the precursor to XPW, I think they had, I forgot if they had like piranhas or sharks or something at some point. And the thing I only found out recently, I don't know how gross this is, but Atsushi Onita had a lot of open cuts after a match, and I'm not sure if it was after the Sheik's match. He had a lot of open cuts and wounds on it, and he was so excited after the match that he jumped into the river. That river is full of bacteria.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
He got a pretty bad infection. He almost died. He had to go to the hospital. So he luckily is still with us today. And he's actually in like a lot of group matches in DDT, a lot like tag teaming with Maki Ito and Chris Brooks, and like using an exploding barbed wire baseball bat. So he's definitely someone to keep your eye on. He could appear in AEW sooner or later because he's not retired at all. Atsushi Onita is very much active.
Yeah, did he just had a match recently too?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he did have a match
back
recently.
FMW.
Yes, he did. He brought it back.
So my honorable mentions. My first honorable mention: Maki Ito versus Mizuki. And that was like her first major rivalry, but the storytelling of that match was like over a year and a half in the making. It was like her former tag team partner that she wanted to prove herself against. And it's very dramatic. And I highly recommend that everything you need to learn about Maki Ito video for the Joshi channel. Yeah. Definitely watch it. Maki Ito versus Mizuki.
Great match, by the way. Underrated for sure.
Yes. A lot of psychology there.
Honestly, I want to input exactly what you're saying. If anything, females wrestlers should be watching this storyline, because this underrated storyline was your best friend, and then it's now world champion. You're the jealous girl type, and you want to be that face of that promotion, of for the title. and you turn your back on your best friend because she has something that you want. Give me what I want, and that's the type.
She's the best storytelling dramatic Joshi that there is, because we've only seen the athletic Joshis. I gotta say, with her, she's really the secret weapon AEW has. Like, it's hard to criticize that women's division if you have somebody like her being like MJF or like Eddie Kingston over for the women's division. My number one honorable mention for underrated feuds: Hana Kimura versus Arisa Hoshiki in Stardom. Okay. And I gotta say, rest in peace, Hana Kimura. It was like probably one of the most interesting, because Hana was she was a big brawler with her move set, and then Arisa Hoshiki had the whole she had the Muay Thai and the triple kicks and stuff. And Arisa Hoshiki has recently made a comeback, because with these injuries, with all the comebacks of all the wrestlers everywhere, like, CM Punk coming back and Katsuyori Shabbata coming back and, the Edge coming back, never say never. We'll see Paige come back sooner or later. We're going to see so many people come back in so many different ways. And Arisa Hoshiki, when she retired, it was a big blow, because Hana Kimura only passed away like a few months before Arisa Hoshiki's retirement. And Arisa Hoshiki was part of Mayu Iwatani's stable in Stardom. And that was the stable of like baby faces, stars. It was her and Tom Nakano. And losing both Hana and Arisa, they were kind of like the top two new aces at that time. And it was such a big blow to Stardom after losing them, because their rivalry, I would say, it's very comparable to a lot of your top two ace battles in other promotions. Your Stone Colds and your Rocks, your Shawn Michaels and Bret Harts. That's definitely one to see. Arisa Hoshiki and Hana Kimura. Definitely go back and watch that for your past Stardom matches.
Awesome. Wow. Hey, this is why you tune into Circle Debate, because you learned something here today.
Absolutely.
That's why,
a lot of these names are new to me. So obviously, I want to check these out. Yes.
Arisa Hoshiki and Maki Ito would probably be at the top of my grocery shopping list for women's wrestling, that aren't signed to AEW. If I was Tony Khan, I'd go to Tokyo with the paychecks in hand. It's like, are you ready to start? I want both of you here, like in LA next week at the Staples Center. Next week. You want a women's division at the very top. Arisa Hoshiki versus Britt Baker next week. Iron Woman match. There you go.
All right. Money Mike, the floor is yours.
I'm so glad that we're doing this, because a lot of these rivalries need this shout out, a lot of them. For me, my list has been, or is, mostly matches that I wanted to see more of, except for my number one. My number one, I saw everything I needed to see, and it's excellent just the way it is. But I'll start with my number 5, Shamrock versus Jericho. Ken Shamrock versus Chris Jericho. My goodness, such a entertaining feud. It's like, you get a tough, no nonsense shoot fighter like Ken Shamrock, and you get what could be the most annoying guy to him in Chris Jericho. And we got WCW Jericho in WWF. That's what I enjoyed so much of this. It was WCW. It was he was trying to kind of almost replicate the Goldberg rivalry in a way, And my favorite part, and I'll never forget it. I'll always remember this. 16-year-old Mike was watching SmackDown, and down comes Jericho from a shark cage and calling out Shamrock like this cage isn't to protect me. No. This cage is to protect you, Shamrock, from the beating that I'm going to give you. Man, great stuff. Great stuff.
Good shit.
Yes, I would have wanted to see more of that Jericho, but I feel like he kind of changed after that. But yes, and it was kind of a perfect rivalry because Shamrock was on his way out, Jericho was coming in. So I'm glad that we were able to at least see this, right? So good stuff there. My number 4, I've always questioned this rivalry how legit is it? It seems like it's legit. They say that it's legit. Is it? And that's the Miz and Daniel Bryan. They've said it in interviews that they actually don't like each other. But is it real? Like I've always wondered, and it just the contrast from day one, since Daniel Bryan walked in there, just the contrast of personalities, styles in the ring, outside of the ring, is just I feel that this is one of those underrated feuds and underrated rivals, right? That I would have wanted a better written storyline for this than what we've gotten so far, maybe.
Well, yeah, I agree because then they added the wives later. They added Brie and they added
and Maurice
too.
Mm-hmm.
They
added the wives, and it was okay, but honestly, I would have wanted to see more of bad blood. Like they just hated each other. That it ended it up to something like that. I would have wanted to see from those two. But I feel it's underrated. So.
I agree with that.
Number 3. Man, it was a one-night feud. We only had it for one night, and I loved it. I love it, as our good buddy Leo says. And that's Eddie Guerrero versus The Rock.
Oh my God, yes.
We had it for one night. We had Rock and Guerrero on the mic against each other, and it was magic on the microphone and in the ring. Eddie Guerrero getting mad at his daughters for having The Rock's poster on his wall, and him just yelling and just going crazy over something like that. And then The Rock singing La Bamba to him, changing the lyrics. Great stuff. If you haven't seen it, go check that out. Great stuff. And the match, of course. Mwah! Excellent.
Fantastic.
So there's number 3. Number 2 is Christian versus John Cena. Christian was on his way out of WWE at the time, and honestly, like, I feel like had he stayed, he probably would have been given a world title run. I definitely believe that, because he had Tyson Tomko with him, and there was just a vibe that Christian was giving off, to me at least, of top contender, world champion. I don't know, that's the vibe that I got from him at the time. And but he left WWE, and the rivalry was handed over to Chris Jericho then. So there was that, but definitely one that's underrated and honestly hardly talked about, Christian and Cena. So I enjoyed that one.
Interesting, because I think that was a time, when you said it on his way out, when to TNA. I think if he would have cut his hair like how Bruce, like your BFF said on this podcast, they wanted to cut his hair, maybe it would have been a different story. I don't think his in-ring skills abilities had nothing to do with it. I think it was his looks that Vince was really concerned about. And I think he wanted to change the long hair and give him the short haircut.
But see, that's what happened. Because he had cut his hair, he was given this push at Vengeance 05. I remember it. And he looked like a main eventer. Sometimes these changes, it matter. We're seeing that with Mandy Rose right now. Just a hair color change, and it changes your career. So change is good sometimes. So there's that. My number 1, one of my all-time favorite feuds, and I feel like it's completely underrated compared to other stuff, and that's Randy Orton versus Mick Foley.
Okay.
I feel like it's not spoken of enough. The start of it, I from start to finish, I enjoyed it. it was a slow burn to lead up to Backlash, where they had their hardcore championship match. Intercontinental match, but it was a hardcore match. I remember that episode of Raw. It was in June of 04 or 03, I'm sorry. And I remember Mick Foley showed up, and it was the retirement of the hardcore title. And that, Mick Foley showed up, and usually when they have these guest star moments, it ends there, and okay, you came, said hello, and that's it. But no, Mick Foley had a segment after that, and I did not see it coming, that he was going to get beat up by Orton and thrown down the stairs. Completely out of nowhere, no pun intended. So yeah, it started there all the way to the following year. Great rivalry, great story overall. To this day, it's one of my favorites and my number one. So
Awesome.
2 honorable mentions. Let's see what you guys think about these. My first, it was just like a high and by sort of thing feud, and that's Pentagon versus Cody. It was a random Dynamite, and Pentagon started talking crap to Cody, and it ended up in the match the following week. I honestly was intrigued by that promo enough that I wanted to see an actual feud blossom over this. But no, it just led to one match and one and done, and Penta is now a face again. So I would have wanted more, and I guess that's why I put it in this list, because
Give me what I want.
yes, of course, got to give the people what
they want. That's right.
Courtesy of who?
Dirty Heels
That's right.
Podcast.
And my second honorable mention for underrated feuds, and I feel like the end hurt it, the end results hurt it, and that's Stone Cold versus Rikishi. I always felt that it was kind of underrated lead up. Austin got run over. We don't know who it is. I always like those kind of mystery storylines. It reminded me of Who Shot Mr. Burns, right? It's like a whodunit sort of thing. And who run over Stone Cold. We waited almost an entire year to find out who it was. Turned out to be Rikishi. Nobody saw that coming. At least I didn't.
I did it for The Rock.
I did it for The Rock. People. We get that classic line, of course. Yes, I did not like that it was so one-sided, the match itself. It was just an ass whooping. Rikishi barely got, if any, offense in. But something that I wish would have been finished better. But the lead up and all that, I enjoyed.
It makes sense because, yeah, they did all this mysterious, and then it was Rikishi, and then you kind of buried him quick. And then I think, yeah, I'm with you on that. They kind of buried that storyline quick. It wasn't. It should have been more focus on it, because for God's sakes, this guy could have ended Austin's career. And why the hell not make the match more epic, make it more storytelling. I'm with you on that. They struck a ball on that one, because it was just like right away they ended like, I don't even think it had an ending though, right? Because like then later on, that's when the whole
Triple H came in. Yeah, it was actually Triple H who sent Rikishi to do it, so they transferred everything to
him. Yeah, that's what I'm like, kind of messed up on that one. They should have just left it with Rikishi and not had an accomplice with Triple H. Should have been just leave Rikishi and end it there, and then go with Triple H. You're right. I think they did drop the ball on that one. Storyline, yes, and it would have helped Rikishi's career more as a heel, a lot more. I'm with you on that 100%. Hell yeah, that is, man. I'm glad you're right. I'm glad we did all these, these underrated feuds. That I'm hoping that all of you guys who are watching and listening, go back to the YouTube and right there look for these matches. Or if you have the cock, I don't know if they have that anymore. I don't know if they have it, since they got rid of everything on the cock. Peacock, ladies and gentlemen, just to clarify it. But yes, go back and look at these matches. And if you have any top underrated ones that you feel that never been spoken of, comment below. We would like to hear your feedback, and I would like to know which one you feel is underrated. Maybe it's the one that I don't remember, you know. You never know. You never know.
Never know.
Exactly. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, next week we'll be back. We'll be doing another top 5. We're not doing the wheel as of right now. We'll do the wheel next one, but I will tell you the top 5 we're going to do. We got 2 upcoming ones that we have to do. Make it 3 because I know what Chris Kennedy, when he comes back, he's back in action, by the way. But we had to discuss giving our top 5 Dark Side of the Ring season 3 episodes out of the 14. Which one did we like? Ooh. So we have to go back and choose our top 5 from there, because we did season 1 and 2, Mike, a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
Yes, but we haven't done season 3. And these are 14 episodes in, so we're gonna recap, relive those episodes and which ones did we enjoyed so much. So stay tuned for that one. And also we'll do our top 5 best high-flying finishers. So that's another one that is gonna be very interesting. We did moves, but never finishing moves. So that's the first time ever. Top 5 high-flying finishing moves. Hey, we'll see what happens on that. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad. Thank you for tuning in. Glad you guys enjoying your Sunday by listening to us or watching us. If you are, make sure hit that notification button, that like button, and ding, 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 ding. Subscribe to our channel, and you get a lot more content coming to you soon. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's the host Stevie's One I Can See, and I'm gonna let Mr. 69 and the MVP of podcasting go ahead and close out the show. So take it away, gentlemen. Whoever wants to go.
Yo, it's Jay-Z. It's The Rock.
Because we don't make just podcasts. We make
Por una cabeza. Ni en mi putría.